A little while back, I made a video where I essentially made a coffee mod in Minecraft. It's a simple mod. Now, back then, I made this back in version 1.20.1, and now that we are in 1.21.1, I think it's finally time we update it to the new version with new content. But before we actually do that, guys, I have something to confess. I accidentally deleted the original mod folder. See, typically what I do is that I make duplicate mod folders for each video, and I just forgot to make one for the coffee mod before making another video. And I kinda deleted some of the coffee stuff from that folder. So that means I have to recreate the entire coffee mod from scratch. No, not you again. Okay, first things first, we need to recreate the coffee berries and coffee beans into the mod. Let's just type in some lines here and boom, coffee berries and coffee beans in Minecraft. So this is how they work. Players can find coffee berries which naturally spawns around the world and can craft them into coffee beans. And from there, they can cook the coffee beans into roasted coffee beans with a furnace. And now let me show you how we can get the coffee beans. So first off, we need to place a coffee berry within a crafting grid to get the raw coffee beans. And then we need to go to a furnace and then smelt them to get the roasted coffee beans. We gotta wait for a moment for it to finish smelting, and boom, we have the roasted coffee beans. So we got the basic things done, but now we need to recreate the two other things about the coffee berries. The coffee berry bush, which is the block where we can obtain the coffee berries, and its world generation. So for the coffee berry bush, I literally reused the code for the sweet berry bush so that you can use the berry to plant the bush, you can bone meal it, and get the coffee berries. It's literally a functional copy of the sweet berry bush. As for the world generation, I wrote it so that the coffee berry bush generates the same way how sweet berry bush generates, but within the savanna biome. Actually, you know what? For old time's sake, let's just modify the rarity code and make every savanna biome be overrun with the coffee berry bush. Maybe a bit more, little bit more. Actually, you know what? Jarvis, replace all the coffee berry bush into TNT. Well, my fellow YouTube audience, we all know where this is going, so say it with me now. Flint and steel!
Flint and steel, chicken jockey, I am.
The next thing we need to recreate is the kettle. Now, the last time I made this thing, to be honest, it did not look great. So I updated the texture for the model and the GUI. As for the source code that makes the entire kettle block work, safe to say that I have a lot of work ahead of me. So I guess I should put on some music and start writing the code. So without further ado, just sit back, relax, and enjoy the montage. So after a whole day of writing the code for the kettle block and editing that montage, we finally have a working kettle block. And unlike the original one that I made over a year ago, yeah, it's been that long, I made some small improvements just to make the kettle a bit tad more intuitive. Okay, now let me explain how the kettle block works because there is kind of a lot to explain. See, whenever you want to use the kettle block, you're going to need to place it on top of either a magma block or a working furnace block. And when you look at the GUI, you can see that there are these fire sprites below the kettle slot. And if you were to remove that heat source block, or at the very least your furnace stops working, the fire sprite disappears. And when you add a water bucket into the kettle slot right here, it refills this water meter, and as long as there's water and the kettle has a heat source, this little boiling meter starts filling up. And once that boiling meter is full, it basically means you can start making your own coffee. Oh, and a little small thing is that when the boiling meter is full, the kettle block will start emitting these particles to kind of like simulate that there's like steam coming off the spout, to kind of like help indicate that the kettle is actually boiling. I like this feature. This feature is cool. This feature was hard to make. This feature made me cry. I'm gonna go off a tangent here because it took a lot of trial and error here just to figure out the simple math of this simple feature. Like how fast the particle effect should move when they spawn, how to make the particle spawn in a way that it looks spread out and not spawn in the same exact spot, where exactly should the particle spawn at the kettle block's position in the first place. This was especially painful when doing it for the 4 different directions the kettle can face. Actually, you know what? Here's the code for it. Looks pretty simple enough when you realize it took me 2 whole days to figure this out without writing anything down. I don't plan things out, I don't record results, I don't write anything on paper, I simply wing it. And if I don't wing it, I simply give up and watch Ninjago. Oh, and here's how you can craft a kettle. So what you're gonna need is a bucket in the middle of this crafting grid right here and some copper ingots sorted like this, and now you can craft the kettle. Now, before we actually make any sort of coffee, we are going to need some sort of cup item. So we got the clay cup, which we can craft like this, and then we can use a furnace to turn those clay cups into a ceramic cup. Okay, so this is how you make a cup of coffee with the kettle block. So you first have to place these 2 roasted coffee beans in these 2 slots here, and an empty ceramic cup in the cup slot. And as long as the kettle is still boiling, as indicated by the boiling meter over here, if we place a ceramic cup in the cup slot, this progress bar starts filling up. And once it's done filling up, you have officially made a cup of espresso. But you also notice that the water meter here has gone down a level, but the kettle is still working since we still have 2 more water levels. But once the water level is empty from the kettle, the boiling sprite starts disappearing, the block will stop emitting these particle effects, and you'll notice that the kettle has completely stopped working until you refill that water level. Now, at this point, we are pretty much done recreating the original coffee mod, but remember, we are not really here to recreate an accidentally deleted mod. We're here to update it. So the one main thing I want to do with this mod update is to add different coffee into the game. So I went on to Google to look up different types of coffee we can add into the mod. Don't tell me you forgot about Google. Now, there are a lot of different types of coffee, some even having unique ingredients, like some having caramel in them. But to be honest, I don't have the patience to recreate every single coffee known to man, so for the sake of time, we are only going to be focusing on 9 different coffees. And one thing that I learned is that out of the 9 coffees in the mod, the espresso, the very first coffee in the mod, is essentially the main ingredient to make the other 8 coffees. Now, if we really want to add different coffee items into the mod, we cannot just simply slap a different shade of brown in the espresso texture and call it a day. Because otherwise, if we keep it like this, it's going to be very difficult to differentiate the different coffee items just by looking at the different shade of brown on the cup item. No, we're going to need to think outside of the box. So I made the glass cup. With this, players can actually somewhat distinctly distinguish the different coffee items based on the texture. Actually, let's play a game here. Take a moment to guess which coffee item here is supposed to represent a latte. First one to get it right in the comments wins $1,000 from Mr. Beast. Up, no cheating. Now, because we have 8 unique coffee items using a glass cup and the espresso item using the ceramic cup, I need to find some way for the game to know which cup to return to the player after drinking a specific coffee item, since they're all using the same custom item class file. So I wrote a little system here where the moment a player finishes drinking a coffee item, the game will identify whether the coffee item is tagged as either a ceramic cup item or a glass cup item. And once it knows which is which, it will then return that specific coffee item based on the tagged coffee drink. For any other drink if I made a second update. Hooray guys, Matthew just confirmed a wine and alcohol update. Alright, now let me show you how you can craft a glass cup. So what you're gonna need is 4 glass blocks crafted like this in a crafting grid, and you can get 6 glass cups. Oh, and I also made it so that you can only stack 16 glass cup within a slot. So that's about it for the glass cup. Now we can start making our different types of coffee. Speaking of which, I guess it's finally time to introduce to you guys the 8 different coffees. So here's the cortado, the flat white, the cappuccino, the latte, the americano, the mocha, the espresso macchiato, and the latte macchiato. Oh, and another thing that I learned is that there's 2 other things that make different coffees, well, different: steam milk and froth milk. Steam milk is basically where you steam milk with a pipe, and froth milk is basically where you insert air into milk with a pipe. So essentially, froth milk is just steam milk, but with premium care. Got it. The thing is, given how similar they look, I cannot just texture them in the same container item, let alone coding a whole new block solely just for heating milk. Thankfully, I have a solution. See, we just added the glass cup when we already have the ceramic cup. So how about we make it so that when you use a glass cup when heating milk, you make a cup of steamed milk. And when you use a ceramic cup, you make a cup of froth milk. Now, the thing about making different coffee with both of these milk is that it kind of depends on how much both of these milk you add into the espresso and in the right order. So for example, if we add 1 steam milk into our espresso, we get a cortado. But if we add another steam milk into our cortado, we get a flat white. As for the froth milk, when we add a froth milk into our cortado, we get a cappuccino. And when we add a froth milk into our flat white, we get a latte. But let's say if we were to add a froth milk right into an espresso, from there we can get an espresso macchiato. And what's interesting is that if we were to replace our empty glass cup with a cup of steamed milk when trying to make an espresso macchiato, what we will eventually get is a latte macchiato. Okay, that's cool and all, but that just leaves us with the americano and the mocha. How do we brew those coffees? So one unique thing about americano is that we don't need any milk to make it. What we need is to add water into our espresso to make a glass of americano. And as for mocha, it's a little bit more complex. See, there's 2 things that we really need: a glass of cappuccino and hot chocolate. To make hot chocolate, what we are going to need are 2 cocoa beans and a cup of steamed milk crafted kinda in the same way we make espresso. And another thing that I didn't mention is that I also added the ability to add sugar into your coffee. So basically how this works is that whenever you make an espresso, it will have this tooltip that says no sugar, meaning that there is no sugar. But for each time you add 2 sugars into your espresso, or any other coffee for that matter, that sweetness level for that coffee will go from no sugar to quarter sugar to half sugar to less sugar to normal sugar, and finally to more sugar. Oh, and this is probably not important, but if you accidentally added sugar into your coffee before you actually finish making the final product, don't worry, the coffee will still retain its sweetness level. Okay, something that I kinda realized is that we're going to need to give the kettle some sound effects, because we need a way for it to audibly indicate when it has finished brewing a coffee while the player is offline or AFK. Otherwise known as away from kettle. Now, I could just code it in a way so that it plays the brewing stand sound effect whenever it crafts a coffee, and I actually did went with this route until I remembered about sound subtitles. See, the thing about the sound subtitles is that whenever a sound effect plays in the game, the associated sound name will then be displayed in the subtitle caption. So when our kettle is done brewing a coffee, it will actually audibly indicate to us when it has finished crafting a coffee item. But the kettle is definitely not a brewing stand. So the only solution here is to make our own kettle sound effect. Now, I'm not exactly a professional in sound editing or composing sound effects in general, so the next best thing, look up YouTube. Now, because this is a kettle, we cannot exactly use the sound effect for an espresso machine, and using kettle whistling sounds kinda makes sense, but the high pitch doesn't really fit with the Minecraft aesthetic. Okay, so I found a video of water boiling sounds, and you know what? Good enough. Now let's just edit those sound recordings in Premiere, export them as video files, convert them into OGG audio files, save them into the mod folder, register the sound events, list those audio files with the associated sound event in a JSON file, and then write the code that actually plays those audio files whenever the kettle crafts a coffee item. So now whenever the kettle is about to craft a coffee item, it'll have a sound effect. So let's just do it again, and this time we're gonna not look at the GUI. We're still in the real world, and there's a sound. I also give the kettle a different sound effect whenever the player adds sugar into their coffee. And you know what? Just for fun, here's the audio for the kettle sound effects. Now, as a fun little activity, I want you guys to figure out what exactly was the sound effect that I used for the sugar adding into the coffee sound effect. I should really give a proper name for that. First one to guess this right wins another $1,000 from Mr. Beast. And one last thing before we end this video, someone once asked in the comments what exactly happens when a player drinks coffee. Now this might change if I ever make a second update, but for now, when you drink any sort of coffee, you will get a speed boost for 5 seconds. But the special thing is that this can vary by the coffee sweetness level. So let's picture this. Let's say the no sugar level is level 0, quarter sugar is level 1, half sugar is level 2, and so on. And each corresponding sweetness level gives an extra 2 seconds on the speed boost. So let's say we drink an espresso with no sugar, that's level 0, that'll give us 5 seconds of speed boost. But if we drink an espresso with quarter sugar, that is level 1, that'll give us 7 seconds. And if we drink an espresso with more sugar, which is level 5, so that will give us an extra 10 seconds, which is 15 seconds altogether on the speed boost. And now that we have all the features sorted out, it's time for us to do some good old-fashioned cooking class. Or brewing class for this case, where today we're going to be making a good old-fashioned cup of mocha. So we have all the ingredients sorted out here, and we have our kettles boiling and our furnace still working. So let us first make a cup of espresso. So we first need to have our roasted coffee beans sorted like this, and a ceramic cup in the cup slot, and now we just need to wait for our cup of espresso to be brewed. And there we have it. So we have a cup of espresso, and now what we need is a froth milk. So we need a ceramic cup over here and a milk bucket in one of these 2 slots here. Place it like this, and then we just need to wait for a moment. And then our ceramic cup will turn to a cup of froth milk. And it seems that our left kettle is no longer working since it doesn't have any more water. So let us refill it with water, and there we go. So let us put our espresso in the bottom slot and put our froth milk in the top slot, and it will eventually make us a cortado. Oh yeah, I forgot to have a glass cup in the cup slot over here. Well, in the meantime, I guess we should make our cup of hot chocolate. So what we need is a steamed milk. So we need a glass cup and a milk bucket, and it sounds like that our cortado is finished brewing. So let us check it out. Oh, it seems like that we have made an espresso macchiato. This is not staged. So we made the mistake of changing our espresso to an espresso macchiato. No worries, because we have more ingredients over here. So let us go back to making a espresso, and let's check our. Oh, it seems like that our furnace is no longer working, but that is okay because we still have some more logs over here. So let us just activate the furnace, and it looks like that our kettle, our red kettle, is now working again. And we have our steamed milk. So now with the steamed milk, we just need to put it in the cup slot and then put some cocoa beans in these 2 slots here, and we'll eventually have a cup of hot chocolate. Cocoa beans. You know, sometimes I hope that there aren't aliens out there planning on invading Earth for cocoa beans, which are maybe priced throughout the galaxy, because otherwise we all might need a savior to defend planet Earth. There we go, we have a cup of hot chocolate. So now let's go back to this kettle. So now we have our espresso, so if we want to convert our espresso to a cortado, what we need is a steamed milk. So we need to use a glass cup in here and a milk bucket in one of these 2 slots here. Let's just put it on the top slot, and you can see that it is working. So then our glass cup will then convert to a steamed milk. Then we need to put it on the top slot, and our espresso in the bottom slot, and then a glass cup in the cup slot. So now let's wait for it to convert into a cup of cortado. And boom, we have made a cup of cortado. So now we need to convert the cortado into a cup of cappuccino. So what we need is a froth milk. So we're gonna use a ceramic cup over here, and then a milk bucket like this. And now we're just gonna need to wait for the ceramic cup item to convert into a froth milk item, and boom. And now it seems like our kettle is no longer working, the left one, so let us now use the right one. So we put our cortado in the bottom slot and our froth milk in the top slot and a glass cup in the cup slot, and now we gotta wait for the cortado item to be converted into a cappuccino item. So now we have a cappuccino item. So now the last thing we need to do is to put our cappuccino in the bottom slot, our hot chocolate in the top slot, and a glass cup in the cup slot. And now we just gotta wait for a moment. So, how are you all doing today? And now we have a cup of mocha. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I fancy having my mocha to have a bit of sugar in it. A bit of half sugar. So let's put 2 sugars over here to have the sugar level to be turned from the no sugar level to the quarter sugar level. And then we add 2 more here. So we will have a mocha with half sugar. And with that, I guess you now have seen at first hand how to make a coffee item in Minecraft. And there you have it, the coffee mod in its finished, updated state. Pretend that this is a folder. And one last final thing that I need to address is that, well, in order for me to not make silly mistakes of forgetting to make duplicate folders for each mod/video and fix my laptop storage, I decided to merge all my existing mods into one folder. Well, at least some of them. That way, I don't have to go back and forth between folders when developing multiple mods at once. Plus, it also allows me to easily make new stuff from these smaller mods that we will miss out on if they really are their own standalone mods. But of course, when it comes to releasing mods with their own unique features and content, basically having their own topic, what I will do is I will cut those unrelated stuff out before releasing each of those unique mods. As for the mod folder of all my combined mods so far, that's gonna stick with me for the time being. Anyways, that's all it for the coffee mod, and I will see you in the next video. Alright, see ya. Oh, hey, you're still here? Well, if you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. I don't say that a lot, but it really does help support the channel. If you want to see more, you can click on these videos or download the mod in the description. And yeah, good night!